Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another video. This time I wanted to address gil making and why there really isn't any secret to it. Personally, I make small amounts of gil out of choice. A few million here and there is all I really need to make sure I can show off the latest items from a patch cycle, as I try to craft as much of it as I can myself. I leveled all my crafters and gathering classes, which, whilst isn't important or mandatory to make gil per se, does make everything a lot easier. And that's without talking about cross-class skills that exist in crafting, the ability then to remove steps to get items high quality through those said abilities. Gil making at the core is simply supply and demand. You could go and kill 300 basilisks if you wanted to for several hours and collect scales, but would that really be a worthy investment of your time? Probably not, unless you're a bot. Start by looking at the market board itself. Look at items new in the latest patch or recent few patches. See what is selling daily. We're not interested in the wow, this item sells for 5 million price tag unless said item sells every day, which you can see in the recent transactions tab of the item's search results. My tip would be to invest as little time as you can into an item to make the most profit, but don't put all of your eggs into that one basket. Spread your investment into several different items that you can either go out and mine, gather, or craft yourself. Not only will it increase the likelihood of your success and not destroy a market with 400 basilisk scales being listed at once for half the price, but it will also make the whole thing less boring for you. It shouldn't be a chore, and won't be unless you make it. So let's use the example of sources of income. So just randomly we can look at the Orchestrion market. Orchestrion scrolls, for example, are a good money turner if you can get the source material, usually a faded copy of the song that drops from extreme modes of trials and some select dungeons and raids. You can usually find that the sheer numbers of people doing content near patch releases make these faded copies of music tracks very overexposed and resultantly cheap to buy. The faded copy of Sunrise, for example, which is the new theme from the Suzaku trial in the Four Lords storyline. The full version is especially sought after, and each full copy of Sunrise sells for around 200,000 gil a sheet on my own server. It's okay on sales, but I'd only probably invest in making maybe 2 of these to begin with, as the sales are there, but they're a lot slower than a lot of other ways of making gil, and you'll find this with a lot of products. So we then have to make the full Orchestrion scroll for less than 200k. So the faded copy is worth nothing, about 3k, so let's buy that straight up. And the blank 3 Orchestrion scroll is something we could make, but they're fairly cheap and we'll just buy one for the sake of the video. And the enchanted palladium ink is something I would definitely usually make myself to cut costs, but for the video let's just not bother. So as you can see, even though I'm incredibly lazy for this video, I spent nearly 50k on materials, but I can still make 200k or near to it if this sells. And we know that this does sell, just not as regularly, but the last sale was yesterday. So really it comes down to how much you invest into it. You really should make the other items on the list if you can. But my point is, don't bother making or buying anything until you find an item that actually sells regularly, or at least regularly enough to make some kind of profit. And don't bother worrying about the high ticket price on items, as a lot of the time, unless it's a patch day where people go crazy or it's a new thing, the market will crush that profit incredibly quick and you'll just be undercut every single minute. Preparing for patch days is probably the biggest way to make money in the game. A lot of reputable YouTuber guild guides that you see on the internet will usually be honest about how much they make every patch day, especially if the preliminary patch notes are out, or you can use some basic prediction of what will be needed for new recipes on launch day. Materia is a tricky market, but actually quite profitable, especially on patch days if a new tier of materia is added. And ethereal reduction is a very healthy source of income if you enjoy your gathering classes that doesn't fluctuate too badly. It's really not that difficult, but you have to weigh up how you spend your time and what you actually want gil for. Are you saving for player housing? Do you need to just have enough to buy the latest minions or glamour, or do you want to have stacks of cash? If it's the latter, your time investment will easily reduce the time you have to do anything else in the game. My advice would be to just go with the flow. It seems like pretty basic advice, but with literally thousands of items in an MMORPG like this that have purpose either directly or as a result of a long-winded recipe, gil can be found in anything and how much time you have to spend on it. Either way, if you have your own gil making methods or want to add to this below, feel free to share. There are very rarely any wrong ways to do anything in terms of gil making. As long as you make more gil than you spent on the item, that's the most important thing. Either way, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time.